How you doing? It's time for another episode of Jukebox Zeroes. We got a backing band this time around. Over there on the guitar, it's Softshoe Magoo. playing a little bit of cigar box ukulele with the band who are taking a smoke break. So it's just Softshoe Magoo today. Yeah. Pulling out all the stops for this episode. We planned this out.
My whole band is dead. Fuck.
Softshoe Magoo, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess he's got to leave.
Well, the band is dead.
Well, he was going to be our guest for tonight, but I guess he just decided to pack it all up after one song. Okay.
Well, what he did was that he decided to die.
Okay, bye.
See you on the other side.
Bye, Softshoe Magoo.
Oh, man.
Anyway, welcome to...
That was going to be such a good guest. I was so pumped to have Softshoe Magoo. Oh, my God.
Oh, boy.
All right, okay. Hey. All right. Asshole. Anyway, I was like really excited to have Softshoe Magoo on.
I'm glad he left now.
I'm so glad. Sour grapes.
Being kind of a prick. We just decided to do something a little bit classy for this intro because the last however many episodes have just been me popping in going, blah, Jukebox Zeroes.
Yeah. But we decided to actually...
Yeah. And we go to all this trouble to book a backing band and an entire 13-piece band, 12 of which are still outside having a smoke break.
Jesus Christ. I mean, none of this, I didn't get the impression that they were going to be like this from our Slack chat at all.
I know, right? It's
absolutely
ridiculous.
Trying to get 13 people together is hard enough work. Never mind, getting everyone on board with Slack, Some of these people don't even use Facebook.
We got to, fucking... compile each and every person into this one room, set up all these microphones, and the catering bill is astronomical.
Oh, it's outrageous. You know how many ham sandwiches I had to make yesterday?
We got so many sandwiches here in the smell cave right now. What are we supposed to do with all these ham sandwiches? I ask you, the listeners, what are we supposed to do with all this superfluous ham that we have?
I mean, I could feed them to my cats. They do like ham.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
So speaking of which, we are here in the smell cave once again. Yep. The impenetrable fortress of Marlborough, Mass.
I guess this is a new feature. When I was coming up in your building, what are the three artists that you said play in your building again?
All right, so this is part of a new segment that we're kicking off season 2 with. 3 episodes in, albeit. But it's a little game called Chicago, Whitney Houston, or Celine Dion. And this is a little game that only Lee and I play. And basically the game is up here in the apartment building that my wife and I live in here in the impenetrable fortress of Marlborough, Massachusetts. The lobby music switches between 3 XM radio stations. And it's only Chicago, only Whitney Houston, or... only Celine Dion.
Now, here's the thing. You say Chicago, Whitney Houston, and Celine Dion. I'm not sure if it was either of those this time. Because when I went down...
Kidding.
I mean, when I was waiting for the door to open, what it sounded like I can only describe as strange French jazz funk.
Oh, yeah, okay, so that's...
Unless, now that I think of it, Celine Dion is French-Canadian, so maybe that's a possibility, but...
Yeah, she didn't really dive into dance funk too much.
Jazz funk.
Jazz funk.
Because, it sounded like it could have been Chicago, but the vocals were clearly like a chanteuse-sounding woman singing in French.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. So that could have been Peter Cetera. I don't know.
Peter Cetera is free to experiment however he wants.
Speaking of Peter Cetera, speaking of 80s pop staples...
You think it's time to apologize for some stuff?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think of whenever I think of the 1980s. Apologizing. It's time for the apology section.
I'm sorry. If I could take it back, I would. I was wrong.
Anyway.
That's about how I feel. Get in the apologizing mood.
So, I fucked up last episode.
Oh, no.
His name is Mike Camp, not Greg Camp.
Oh, okay. But
The
like,
Smash Mouth guitarist is Mike Camp, not Greg Camp. Or am I thinking of it wrong again? Is it Greg Camp, not Mike Camp?
so, okay. It's one of those names. You figure it out. You suss it out.
The point is, I
Listeners.
went to all this trouble to castigate Patrick for daring to get wrong a factoid about Smash Mouth when I myself was making a Smash Mouth related blunder myself.
Oh my God. What is wrong with us?
I mean, we're trying to live in a civilized society here, and here I am saying, like, I don't know the difference between the names Mike and Greg.
It's unfortunate because these guys really worked hard to write these compositions.
They took
and the least we can do is actually give them the credit where it's due.
They took a rocket ship and they walked on the sun.
You're right.
That deserves a little bit more plaudits, you know?
It sure does. I'm going to apologize for all the cum jokes I made last week.
You were on a roll.
I was certainly on a roll, and I think I kind of got carried away at definitely one point when we were talking about Papa, and you know, I don't think child abuse is funny, so I'm just going to say that right off the bat.
I mean, thinking about it again, I'm not sure if I would call them so much cum jokes as you just throwing the word cum into random places.
Yeah, and you know, my wife and I had a big talk about that, so I won't be allowed to say cum anymore.
Like, you weren't doing anything like particularly clever or satirical with it. You were just like, I'd be talking or Todd would be talking, and then you just say, yeah, you know what? Cum.
Yeah, I mean, there were absolutely no layers to the joke, which like, it's hardly even a joke at all. And frankly, that's how I like my humor. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not going to apologize for that.
It's more like very selective Tourette's syndrome.
Yeah.
And now I apologize for the Tourette's syndrome joke.
Save it for next week, okay? You gotta own it this week and apologize for it next week. That's what we do. Own and then disown.
So we had a guest, but he just fucking left just a moment ago. You all heard it. He just left in a huff.
Yeah, and
he just threw his cigar box ukulele on the floor and then wandered away.
Hey! Fuck you! Hey! Shut up!
Get
out of here.
God damn it.
All right. I think we got to call the cops.
Get his license plate.
Yeah, we got to call the cops. This guy's fucking soft shoeing all over my lawn.
He's trying to steal Gunter. He's trying to steal Gunter.
Oh my God. Hey, put the cat down.
Hey, Softshoe Magoo. Put the cat down.
He thinks he's so goddamn sneaky with those soft shoes.
Put the cat down, Softshoe Magoo.
They're not even soft shoes. They're just Garfield slippers, okay? Like, who does he think he is?
Did he drive here in those?
He absolutely totally did.
You have a paved parking lot. That couldn't have been comfy to walk across.
He didn't even buy those soft shoes. You know what? He totally got it from his dad, you know? That he just inherited it from his dad, who was Hardshoe Magoo. And he said, "Son, I've had a hard life, but I do it all for you. And here's your soft shoes, your Garfield slippers." And I mean, I don't know why he talks like that.
And now look at him, just walking out in a huff on podcasts.
Yeah, but that's where we're at now.
You're not doing your papa proud, Softshoe Magoo. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, okay, whatever, dude.
Oh, boy. So instead, you got us.
Yay!
Alone in a room.
As usual. So this is...
We haven't had like just a solo duo episode since the first one,
that's
so
right.
It's almost like we're getting back to basics.
Yeah, we're kind of learning our rhythms
1 year
again.
later.
Yeah, so this will be good. So this is good for our improv. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, red leather, yellow leather, red yellow.
Can we start over?
One smart fellow, he smelled fuck.
I can't even say lead leather. Red leather.
This is why we have guests, because when it's just the two of us, we look fucking stupid.
Yeah, no one's here to rein us in. So it's just going to be cartoon noises the whole rest of this episode. I was kind of hoping we'd have like kind of a classy episode. Like I actually took notes, but now like I'm just throwing those all out the window.
Yeah, we could use some class after last week's, cum parade.
Listen. You just said cum parade, all right?
All right. I shouldn't castigate you. I apologize, Patrick.
It's fine.
Again.
Let's,
Apologies all around.
Let's talk about this album, huh?
Yeah, here's the album that it's just the two of us. We're still going to give this album its due.
You and I.
So, the English band Genesis went through many different forms since its inception in 1967, as well as several different lineup changes and sounds. More specifically, there are two configurations that fans tend to remember the most. The early to mid 1970s Genesis, which consisted of Peter Gabriel on vocals, Steve Hackett on guitar, Phil Collins on percussion, Tony Banks on keys, and Mike Rutherford on bass and occasional guitar. It was at this time that Genesis was most singularly focused on progressive rock music, bolstered by Gabriel's flamboyantly theatrical live performances and esoteric storytelling lyricism. This period features several of the band's most critically beloved works, but would ultimately be cut short in 1975. In 1975, not in the 1975.
Like the band, the 1975.
No, that wouldn't be for quite a while, ironically. But anyway, this would be cut short in 1975 when Peter Gabriel left the band to start a solo career. The other period is from 1977 to 1996, after Gabriel's departure. The band soldiered on without him, with Phil Collins assuming vocal duties, but after a few well-received takes on their previous progressive rock sound, the band's lineup was once again shaken up, with Mike Hackett also leaving in 1977.
Steve Hackett.
God damn it! Next week.
Everybody's named either Mike, Steve, or Greg.
Anyway, Steve Hackett left in 1977. The album which followed, which now featured the Genesis lineup of Collins, Banks, and Rutherford, was And Then There Were Three, which signaled a shift in tone towards a more pop-oriented sound, which would only increase with each subsequent record. Nonetheless, this was an incredibly profitable period for Genesis, whose records as a pop-rock threesome would find major chart success worldwide. Which brings us to 1996, when another major lineup shift occurred. Phil Collins left Genesis to focus exclusively on his solo career, and would eventually go on to compose one of the weeniest Disney soundtracks of all time.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was like, he left to go fucking write the Tarzan soundtrack. Like Scourge, that song was like the scourge of my bagging groceries career at Victory Supermarket back in like the late 90s, early odds.
Yeah, that song was kind of inescapable for a very, very brief window of time.
Yeah. Oof.
But anyway, Banks and Rutherford decided not to call it quits, and instead called in the vocal services of Ray Wilson, the frontman of Scottish grunge band Stiltskin, as well as session drummers Nick DeVirgilio of prog rock group Spock's Beard, and Nick Zidkyahu, who would also do session work for John Mayer, Joss Stone, Jason Mraz, and other people whose first name started with J. The album which resulted from this configuration was 1997's Calling All Stations, which would be the last studio album Genesis would ever release, and the first not to reach #1 on the UK charts in 20 years. Critics were largely unkind, lambasting the album as a whole for its lack of direction and purpose, and were largely mixed on the addition of Ray Wilson on vocals. Steve Knopper at the Chicago Tribune gave the album 1.5 stars, calling Wilson out as having no confidence or personality, let alone the vision to stave off his bandmates' meandering ideas. David Wild of Rolling Stone magazine gave it 2 stars, stating, "The ultimate problem here is the usual one. The dearth of decent material beyond a few pleasant if generic FM rock tunes." And meanwhile, at allmusic.com, our friend Stephen Thomas Erlewine also gave it 1.5 stars, declaring even ponderous prog rock has to have musical themes worth exploring, and on that level, Genesis come up dry on Calling All Stations. On the whole, Calling All Stations is considered one of Genesis's lowest points, and a disappointing final album for the band to go out on. But what's our take? What do you say we take a listen and find out?
Yeah, let's definitely take a listen. I mean, I already listened to the album, but maybe perhaps our listeners do. So this was my first time listening to this album ever.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, before we even get into the album, were you a big Genesis fan at all?
Yeah. So, I mean, Genesis has always kind of been...
I know you're much bigger into prog rock than I am.
Yeah, so, like, Genesis has always kind of been, part of my musical fabric in some way or another. Just, starting out, like, back in the 80s, I was a, young kid back in the mid-80s, and, like, Land of Confusion is like one of the first singles, or like one of the first like radio hits I kind of remember that was like a contemporary hit. And that was like 1986. There's actually like a home movie of like me and my brother and sister like I'm like 2 or 3 years old, just like running around our living room, jumping around while that video is on television. I don't know if you've ever seen the video for that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's got all the fucking weird puppets
from the TV show Spitting Image. Those puppets are fucking hideous.
They sure are, man. The Mike Rutherford puppet is like particularly gruesome.
Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks get it the worst out of like the 3 Genesis
They
members
kind of
in
look
that
like
one.
giant puppets anyway. Those poor guys.
I mean, like Mike Rutherford looks like his face has been stretched out and covered with like superfluous like beard bits.
Yeah.
and Tony Banks just straight up looks like Janice from the Muppets. They made his lips so fucking big. And at one point, there's a Pete Townsend puppet with just the biggest fucking nose you've ever seen.
Yeah. What are they trying to say there?
I don't know.
That he has a big nose.
Yeah, probably.
So anyway, back to Genesis.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I love Phil Collins. I know not everybody does, but I don't know. I think he's a great singer. And like the hits from the 80s, you know, were pretty goddamn catchy and definitely like a part of my, my early memory of music because they were so ubiquitous, you know, towards the mid to end of the 80s. And then later on, actually not really until I was like in my mid 20s, I started actually getting into the Peter Gabriel era of Genesis, the more proggy end of it. And that was actually after I had gotten into Peter Gabriel himself. So it's sort of like, okay, now I'm kind of like working my way back.
Right.
So it's a bit of a toss up for me. I sort of treat them as 2 different bands, the Peter Gabriel Genesis versus the Phil Collins Genesis.
Right. They're definitely like 2 different animals.
For sure, and I think they both have their merits. I really love from the Gabriel era, the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is probably my favorite. And I don't know, are you into either era at all?
I mean, I'm not really so much of a Genesis fan of the 2 eras. I kind of prefer the Peter Gabriel era.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't come up with any of the Phil Collins stuff. Literally, the first time I heard any of the Phil Collins Genesis type material was when I was working at a classic rock station for a period of time when those songs were kind of inescapable forever.
Sure.
And, you know, it really made me sick of a couple of select songs. Like, yeah, on the whole, like, the Phil Collins Genesis never really rubbed off on me too much. I will cop to really liking the song Misunderstanding, though.
Yeah, so the record that's on Duke, I think is probably my favorite Phil Collins era record. And I'll kind of get into this later.
And I will also cop, you know, to what you said. Phil Collins is a really good singer and a really good drummer, too.
Yeah. The fact that he can kind of pull off both he's a really good musician. Like, you can't take that away from him. Like, you know, whatever else, like, whatever other problems you have with him, like, whatever, like, the dude can play music.
Right.
And you can't.
Oh.
That's right. You hear me, Softshoe?
Yeah. That was directed at you.
Yeah, keep stepping, fool.
Put that sandwich down. You don't get to have them anymore.
Just let him have it.
Softshoe Magoo.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. That ham is rancid.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Maybe those guys weren't taking a smoke break. Oh. Maybe they went to the hospital.
This might explain why they died.
We might.
Remember that one point that we kind of glossed over towards the beginning.
That's kind of an important lead to bury, Pat.
Yeah.
But I guess that does tie into, because this is kind of a makeshift Halloween special a little bit.
Sure.
For whatever Halloween bits you can claim it is.
This episode is haunted.
I mean, what's spookier than progressive rock music? Ooh. I mean, you remember that really, really spooky, like, I think Rush did it, that really spooky song where they just goes like, ghouls and goblins, spooky times, everybody graveyard dancing, ooh. That was not one of their better songs. That was
Yeah, I love that one. Old
That-
goblins and ghouls. Yeah, so yeah, that wasn't their best song.
No, and
Not their
and
best
they
song.
and they released it as a single too, which was a terrible idea.
Yeah, it was like 12 minutes long too, and that was just the single version.
Nope,
I think the
nope.
album version might have been like close to 25.
No one liked it. No one thought it was a good idea, and yet every time since then they close all their live shows with it.
Alex Lifeson literally hates it.
Neil Peart doesn't even play drums on it.
No, he doesn't. I think they got like who did they get? They got what the guy from Third Eye Blind.
Ringo Starr?
Yeah, that's the one.
So anyway, enough being silly, people.
Yeah,
What do you say
let's start a podcast now?
Yeah, what do you say we get into the album a little bit?
Sure.
Right. We should preface this by just playing like some really quick clips just for as points of comparison. This is Genesis with no Peter Gabriel, no Phil Collins. So for comparison, here's Genesis during the Phil Collins era.
But you're looking through me like I wasn't here at all. No reply. There's no reply at all.
I love that song.
And here's Genesis from the Peter Gabriel era.
Oh, back on us with the broken glass. It's left a full moon. And he's writing the lyrics of a brand new tune.
Yeah, supper's ready.
Yeah, fucking love that section of the song.
Yeah, that's a good section.
Anyway, you heard Phil Collins, you heard Peter Gabriel, and now let's hear the title track from Calling All Stations, titled Calling All Stations.
Can anybody tell me exactly where I am? I've lost all sense of direction.
Ray Wilson.
God.
Ray Wilson.
Does he talk like that too? Like, hey guys, I wrote a song.
Oh boy,
I'm
oh
from
boy.
the band Rumpelstiltskin. I mean, just Stiltskin. Sorry. Rumpelstiltskin was my father. No, Mr. Stiltskin is my father's name. Just call me Rumple.
Yeah. Scottish Stiltskin frontman Ray Wilson.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Ray Wilson. You want something to drink? You want? Hey Ray,
Wilson.
we're going out for drinks. Ray, you want something to drink? Hey, tepid water.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're going out to breakfast afterwards. What do you want? Flavorless gruel.
Yeah, this is the type of guy who thinks that salt is too spicy.
They have like jams and stuff and honey. Do you want to put that in? No. Oh, these Scottish.
Just give me
Nay.
plain toast.
White bread. Wonder bread. If it's got that little film on it, all the better. So,
Good shit.
right off the bat, if there's one thing that's keeping me from truly accepting this album for what it is and ignoring the far-reaching legacy this album has to live up to, it's this guy. Boring, white bread, unremarkable Ray Wilson. The singer and guitarist for Scottish post-grunge act Stiltskin, a band that had one number one UK hit titled Inside, and then not much more than a cult following for the rest of their career. Ray Wilson should have just been a footnote on music history, but instead he's here on a Genesis album, making the whole thing just sound incredibly fundamentally boring.
Yeah, so I feel like he's definitely, his range sounds a little bit more like Peter Gabriel than Phil Collins.
Yeah, like in doing research for this, a whole bunch of, not reviews necessarily, but lots of promotional material leading up to it was just like, we're bringing back the Peter Gabriel area. This guy sounds just like Peter Gabriel. No.
Well, like, okay, sure, but the music itself, I don't know if you've ever listened to We Can't Dance, but, like, it's not terribly different from what they were doing there, or
Right.
even on, like, Invisible Touch or the self-titled one before that.
Consider this, like, the whole thing about, like, this is Ray Wilson, we're putting him as to replace, multi-platinum selling Phil Collins. Like, imagine if, like, an equally beloved American band like, say, the Eagles or something like that. Like, imagine the Eagles. Put that in your head, Pat. Now, take a...
I can't.
Okay, but try to make it through the
They're a bunch of little birds, right?
Try to make it through the head palpitations and imagine the Eagles. Put aside having ever seen The Big Lebowski and think of the Eagles.
I am thinking of
Okay. Now take away Don Henley, take away Glenn Frey, and take away everything, like all the iconic singers from that band. They're out of the picture.
Yeah.
Now take all them and replace them with Ed Kowalczyk. That's the level of mundane.
Oof.
That's the level of mundaneness that you look at that and just go, "Oh,
Ed Kowalczyk
someone must find that interesting."
Ed Kowalczyk is an impressively mundane human being.
Yeah.
Oh my god. He's an asshole.
Hey Ed, how you doing? I'm doing okay, Ray. Do you want to go get some lunch? Sure. What you want to eat? Gruel. You're a man after me own heart. What?
So right off the bat, the beginning of the song starts off with like a little guitar riff, and oh my god, that guitar tone is disgusting. It's like it's 80s glam metal, like super dimed guitar, and it just sounds really out of place on a record that came out in 1997.
Yeah. 80s guitar rock in the 1990s.
In the late 90s too.
I
Like it's
mean-
not like even the early 90s, so there was no like crossfade or anything. This is like the production is just like so out of touch with what was actually going on at this time.
Right. I mean, we're not even that far into the album yet, but I would say this already feels like an album that's really out of time.
Yeah, the production it definitely sounds like digital, definitely like hard drive sort of sound to it. The reverb is super heavy too. It just all sounds very digital and flat and doesn't really have any sense of dynamics or anything like that, which I feel is important to what Genesis is all about, where they're
Right.
supposed to be sort of taking journeys throughout their songs.
Yeah, that's the thing about so many Genesis, or at least the prog rock era Genesis more than anything, is that, they have all these little plateaus that you have to cross over. It's never just like, just a straight, here's the beginning of the song, here's the end of the song.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially like with the Gabriel era and, for that period when they were still doing prog after he left, when Steve Hackett was still in the band.
Yeah, and actually they were still doing, they were still kind of diving into prog, like at least on a couple of tracks, even on their pop hits.
Right.
Like,
I've heard a lot of good things about the song Abacab.
Abacab.
My bad.
Which that album has like a pretty lengthy track on it, and then like the self-titled album, 83 self-titled album that they did has like Home by the Sea and then Second Home by the Sea, which is there's sort of a song cycle on there, and I think on Invisible Touch there's even like a 10.5-minute song on there too. So they were still kind of like fucking around with it, but with each album, and actually Duke, which the album that has Misunderstanding on it is itself has it's not a concept album, but there's a loose concept. There's a loose concept that's happening, and there's like 5 or 6 songs that are all tied together.
Right.
And so it's still something that these guys are capable of doing, and definitely like a big part of their agenda.
Right.
I think the pop aspect of it became more and more apparent. Leading up to Invisible Touch and on We Can't Dance.
Yeah. And like with the length of some of these tracks and the way they just drag them out, it sounds a lot like they really want to still do, prog rock type stuff, but they've just kind of lost the plot in a lot of places.
Well, it's just they're not doing anything like particularly dangerous or anything like that. It's all very safe, all very poppy, but they're taking it to this long format, and that's where it gets really oppressive.
Right.
This song could have been tied up into a 3.5-minute single easily, but it's about 5 minutes, 5:21 or something like that. I don't know. It's a little over 5 minutes, and it feels so much longer. And then at the we were talking about this on like Facebook Messenger too, where all the tracks on this album have a fade out.
Yeah, a completely superfluous fade out. I mean,
yeah.
So, maybe not all the time, but very frequently the song will just fade out right in the middle of Ray Wilson singing. And usually at a part where, they're moving to a completely different new section of the song too. It was just like, okay, they're trying something different. Maybe this will be, wait, where are they going?
Yeah, and so what sounded weird to me was the fade out in this song is like in the middle of a Ray Wilson verse. Like you sing your new verse, and like I mean, honestly, none of the choruses are memorable enough to me for me to say this, but I thought it was like another verse with like new lyrics.
Right.
And they're just fading them out like it's like, all right, Ray, all right, bye, all right. We're ending the song now.
We only got the studio till 3. Let's pack it in a bit. All right.
I got more to say.
Time to go then. I'm gonna sit at home and watch 60 minutes.
I'm going to soak my bread in some water. Much too spicy.
I mean, the song itself, it's forgettable blend, just the very forgettable blend of like string heavy 90s rock.
Yeah.
It's the kind of song that like when I was in high school and much bigger into, you know, post-grunge and new metal and more bro-y kind of stuff, I'm sure I would have loved it and thought it was, you know, amazing because, you know, it was that period of time where it's just like, this has a string section, it's deep.
But it doesn't, though. It's just Tony Banks's fucking, like, ARP synthesizer or whatever.
Right.
Which, man, he's using that, like, all over this album. That same fucking string patch loaded it with reverb.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just swallowing you whole.
This is the first track, and we have this much to say about it.
Yeah. Why don't we move on to track dose?
Track number 2, titled Congo.
Send me to the Congo, I'm free to leave. There's always somewhere anybody can leave. Send me to the Congo, you have to believe. You can do it if you wanna, just do what you please.
So even though Calling All Stations was stagnant commercially and critically, it did have a few charting singles, including this first one, which landed at number 25 on the Billboard mainstream rock charts and number 29 on the UK singles charts. That still doesn't explain the superfluous African chanting and tribal percussion at the beginning, especially since this isn't literally supposed to be a song about, you know, the Congo.
I didn't really latch onto it enough to hear what it was actually about. I just assumed this was more like cultural appropriation, similar to earlier tracks that they've done, like Illegal Alien.
Oh boy, that was an embarrassing one.
Sure was. This is slightly less embarrassing than Illegal Alien.
This was the tie-in song to the film Congo, right?
I mean, possibly, but that could have been around the same time.
It probably wasn't. I will say that if there was any film that probably could have stood for, like, either a romantic end credits ballad probably sung by Peebo Bryson, or like, you know, a really weird
duet of Peebo Bryson and Vanessa Williams.
Or like a rap about the movie itself by like MC Hammer or LL Cool J. That movie could have benefited from that.
Ah, man, I missed those days. Like in the ending credits, they give you a rap, but the rap explains the plot of the movie for you. So you don't even really have to pay attention to the movie. You catch the rap at the end, and it's like it gives you all the exposition.
Yeah, that was handy for anyone who missed the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Adam's Family, Ninja Turtles,
all the Turtles.
All of the Turtles.
Not even just the ninja ones. We had some Tybo ones.
Didn't even matter if they got the canon right.
Yeah.
Raphael, he's the leader of the group, spawned from the nuclear goop.
I mean, there's a few
he's not the leader of the group.
No, he's not. He's cool but rude. Give me a break. And Michelangelo was a party dude. I mean, I'm just talking about the show that was just the Turtles, though. The ones that didn't get affected by the nuclear fallout.
Right.
Nuclear fallout, sorry.
That probably also had the names of famous painters.
They did. They named themselves.
Yeah.
From what I recall.
I think there was one called Picasso. One was Rembrandt. There was one named Sickert.
Yeah, I remember that one. There's a couple that were named after French Impressionist composers. So there's like a Debussy, there was a Satie, a Ravel.
I think there was one called Brahms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, my bad. He was a Gila monster. That's not the same thing at all.
Yeah, the Gila monsters were big into the Romantic era artists.
Yeah. Bartok.
Oh yeah, really big into that exoticism and I'm sorry, nationalism.
We're talking about all this because we don't want to talk about this Genesis album.
We don't, and honestly, I'm still really pissed off that Softshoe just completely fucking ghosted us.
I mean, considering what we have to listen to, maybe we should have gone with him.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of understand what happened. I think basically what happened was I made these sandwiches that we needed to make, and I used rancid ham, and I don't really know why I decided to use rancid ham.
Was it like cheap or?
I think that's what happened. So I got sent to the store. Was it convenient? I wasn't really paying attention to what I was buying, but I went to it was Roxy's Meat in Quincy, which is next to the Stop and Shop, and they had a manager special on a entire Crocus ham.
Well, there's your first mistake. You drove all the way to Quincy to get your butcher shopping done.
Yeah, it's about a 45-minute drive, but the price was right. I found them on Craigslist. They were like, "Yo, we got discount meat." This wasn't really an official sale. So it's kind of funny because this wasn't.
We got discount meat.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because it wasn't like an official sale through Roxy's. What it was is I had to meet up after hours with the Prep Foods manager. I'm not really entirely sure if he was the manager. I think he was kind of young. He was maybe like 18, 19.
Probably a new hire.
Yeah, I mean, he told me he was the manager. I'm not entirely sure, but he seemed to know what he was talking about. So I met him out back by a dumpster. I assume because that's where he retrieved the ham from.
I mean, those Quincy dumpsters, they have such a reputation of being so clean.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, well, this seems like a legitimate transaction to have with this gentleman. Why not? This is America. This is what we do.
Don't catch me slipping now.
Yeah, I'm going to exchange my money for goods and services, and by goods I mean this ham. So I spent approximately so this is like a 5-pound ham, like that's a lot of meat, right? 5 pounds.
5 pounds is a
5
lot
pound,
of meat.
like an entire ham, which I had to slice myself, of course, but painstakingly. But it costs. I can't remember what the exact dollar amount was because I kind of blacked out that day, but I want to say it was like $83 for this 5-pound ham. It was, I mean, that's a hell of a deal as far as I know. I'm not really good at appraising hams, but I think that was a really good deal. So I bought it and I brought it home. I sliced it up to make these sandwiches for the band for our guests today, because this was part of the deal. The guests had to come with the whole band.
That was in the rider.
That was in the rider. That it was Softshoe Magoo came in and was like, no,
he's gonna ream us for that one.
Yeah, he's like,
we're not gonna let us live that down.
Yeah, so he's like, gotta let me in, gotta let the band in, and I was like, that's fine, that's cool. But you have to eat these sandwiches.
I believe his exact words were, "Softshoe Magoo, let the band in too."
Yeah, that's it.
He was talking in rhyme the whole time we were, talking with him, which seemed weird.
It was weird, but I was kind of hoping he would bring that to the interview. I mean, not the interview, the show.
He was so pissed off. He didn't even rhyme when, he threw his ukulele on the floor and left.
So anyway. What I think happened was, I kind of touched upon it at the top of the show, the band died. I'm not really sure if it was because of the ham. It probably was. I mean, it seems weird that it would work that quickly. The ham was like, so it's kind of weird. In my experience, hams are like sort of like a light red, pinkish color.
Right. This one was not?
I don't recall. I kind of don't remember seeing red, though. I want to say maybe it was more like a beige or like an olive green.
That might have been your second mistake.
That might have been my second mistake, and
but I mean, that's 2 mistakes within a period of several hours, so that's still like pretty good, like ratio-wise.
Oh, so in addition to the $83 that I spent on the ham, I've got to mention this part. I got a jug of fucking a 5-pound jug of mayonnaise with it too.
That was mayonnaise?
I mean, it was. Again,
it had kind of a whiff to it, so I assumed it was some kind of like fancy ranch.
I mean, it looked kind of more like a chutney, but it came in a container that said Hellman's. I don't know, but I put that on the sandwich, and I don't know, the
I
band were
saw that
I don't know if they were compromised,
I saw
or
that
something.
container. It looked a little bit shifty. They spelled Hellman's with a U.
Oh yeah, Hellman's.
Yeah.
That's how it's spelled?
No, they spelled it Holman's.
Oh, right. Shit. Anyway, so I think that's what happened. Let's elevate. Let's talk about the
So that
album.
reminds us of Genesis,
Yeah.
the song. Regarding the writing abilities of Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford, who did a sizable chunk of songwriting during Genesis's pop period, and have done the majority of the lyric writing on Calling All Stations. Not to suggest that their Collins era stuff was Chaucer, but there's some banal-ass lyrics in this song. Like, the main hook of it is, like, send me to the Congo, I'm free to leave. They wrote that line for Ray Wilson to belt. That's what they did.
What is the story they were trying to tell, though?
I mean, from what I understand, the guiding theme between all of these songs is, like, it's supposed to be, like, a breakup album of sorts. So maybe the Congo is, like, a metaphor to be, like, let me go, but I don't... Why does it have to be the Congo?
Because, I don't know, Congo ends in a vowel and it rhymes with bongo?
He does not mention bongo this whole time, though.
What the fuck? Dude, perfect missed opportunity right there.
Boy.
To have a song where you sing about a bongo that you bought in the Congo.
And, of course, we get another abrupt fade out right at the end, too.
Yeah.
As it's going into a completely different part. It's like, okay, this might get interesting. Wait, come back.
Yeah, I did note that the production was, like, slightly more interesting on this track. There was, like, a little more sounds to latch onto other than the oppressive synth string.
There was this really crunchy bass synth that kept popping up during the chorus that I will admit I kind of liked.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay.
Fair enough. So, track number 3. This one is titled Shipwrecked.
I feel shipwrecked. I might as well be shipwrecked. I'm helpless and alone, drifting out to sea. I can't believe.
This one was the second single from the album. It reached number 54 on the UK charts and number 82 in Germany. So stop me if I'm a little out of line or off the mark on this one, but after hearing this a couple of times, this song feels almost exactly like Follow You, Follow Me, the early Genesis hit that marked the band's shift from prog rock into pop rock.
Yeah, I
don't mean,
definitely agree with you on that.
And I don't mean in terms of, like, they use the exact same chord structure or, like, the melodies or something like that. It's just more the atmosphere, the mood, and the general vibe of it I get from it. They didn't copy the exact same tune, of course, but just after listening to it so many times, I just hear, like, this is Follow You, Follow Me, except not so good.
Yeah, and again, Ray Wilson just, like, completely ruining... Not that there's much here to begin with, but, like, he just really drags this song down.
Yeah.
As soon as he
No
starts
kidding.
singing those lyrics. And I don't know, just, like, the whole, like, might as well be shipwrecked.
I'm shipwrecked.
It just sounds like if they took a word out of the dictionary and, like, decided to write a song about that. And it just, I don't know, it's not a good
I mean,
word to use, I guess. It sounded very awkward.
Meter-wise, it's probably better that they went with that and didn't end up with, like, I'm flabbergasted. I might as well be perplexified. Well, you're just making up words now, Ray Wilson. Sorry.
I'm feeling bamboozled. Bamboozled.
So, I read a bunch of reviews for this album in developing my notes for this, and one of my favorites focuses specifically on this track. It's from allmusic.com. It's by an author named Francois Couture, and he writes of Shipwrecked, like a bunch of stuff, but he ends it with, this song was an attempt at a pop hit. It didn't work.
It certainly did not.
Very to the point.
The production, again, is just, like, so flat and doesn't really take us anywhere in this song. And one of the big offensive parts of this song to me is the drum part. It's just a rim click throughout the whole thing. From, like, the top to the bottom.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There's no sort of build beyond that other than, like, every so often, like the dude hits some snare hits and some tom hits, but it doesn't really take you anywhere. There's no like, okay, like this is the softer section with the rim clicks.
Yeah.
And then like, all right, we build, we bring in the louder drums, but
Yeah,
it just never really pays off.
Fucking Nir Zidkiahu taking a coffee break right there.
Exactly. It's just it just plateaus, and it's just so like middling throughout the whole thing. There's no and this is the problem I have with a lot of the songs on this record, where there's no like real sense of movement. There's no agenda. There's no like payoff. There's no point.
There's no focus.
There's no focus. Right. It's very meandering, and you know, these guys have, you know, Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford have been with the band since the very beginning, since their 1969 debut.
Yeah, they were the only members of the band that stuck through it the whole way through.
Yeah.
They were the fucking movers and shakers.
They were, and yeah, it's just again, like the melodies on here, like these are the guys. Like this is the dude who wrote, you know, Firth of Fifth, or like, you know, all these like classic, you know, just beautiful, gorgeous piano lines, you know, with like rich and so much, you know, musical denseness, and this just sounds so like
Ray Wilson just dragging him. That's Ray Wilson just dragging everybody down. Can you turn your stuff down a bit? It's too loud. No, that's still too loud. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, that's good. No, it's loud again. Must have been a pain to work with the producer. This fucking guy.
Trying to get the good vocal take.
Can't bring it down any lower.
I think Dunkaroos are too spicy for Ray Wilson. Doesn't quite work.
What do you mean you don't want your Dunkaroos? It's not fun unless I take them from you by force. No thanks.
Why don't you try dipping them in some water?
Too much, too savory.
Savory? Man.
This guy's making it no fun whatsoever.
Yeah, that was what Nick Davis sounded like, wasn't
he? Yeah, pretty much. So, once again, very standard post-grunge balladry otherwise. Not bad enough to elicit a strong dislike reaction from me, but nothing especially good happening either.
Yeah, I disliked this track. It was so boring.
Quite a few of the less generous user reviews for this album have been comparing this iteration of Genesis to Genesis through the lens of Nickelback. Here's the thing. I disagree. Comparing this to Nickelback is giving it too much credit. Nickelback is at least memorable at times.
Yeah, they write way catchier songs than this.
This is more like Genesis through the lens of The Calling.
Oh, yeah.
Remember The Calling? Of course you don't.
Yeah, no one's The Calling those guys anymore. That poor guy. Wonder if he still has that same haircut.
Beats me.
The frosted tips. That dude looked like... So it's so funny.
I think he became Guy Fieri.
I think you did too. The lead singer of The Calling looked like he was about 19 years old, but he sounded like he was 45.
What was their big single? Because I only literally remember them from a song they had on the Daredevil soundtrack, which I'm sure no one fucking remembers.
You everywhere you go.
Because like 9 times out of 10, I'm always mistaking them for Lifehouse or some other band.
Yeah, these
like
guys were
Lifehouse or Flaw or one of those kind of...
Default. Like, I love that Default is such... I mean, it's the perfect name for that band.
They were not shooting for the stars with that one.
No. They got a Default sound for 2002.
I'm wasting my time. It's so easy to imitate nu metal.
We got to do like a 2000s post-grunge roundup at some point.
Yes, we do. We might have to force Chris Brown to come back for that one
absolutely.
Because we promised he did the Limp Bizkit one, and afterwards we promised he would come back for a much better one.
Yeah, and that's
so
not
let's
saying
so let's
very
not
much.
so let's not do that.
Yeah.
Track number 5. What? Nope. Track number 4. My bad.
We're about an hour in and we're just getting to track 4.
We did a lot of fucking around earlier. Track number 4. This is called Alien Afternoon.
But all around, rain kept falling to the ground. The wind was blowing, but the trees didn't make a sound. Just another alien afternoon.
So this might be the most, and this is not saying much, but this might be the most prog-like track so far, if only for the part that it's not strictly adhering to like a verse-chorus-verse format for very long. And I gather that this is leaning more towards like Genesis's art pop side than their 70s prog days, but even the Collins era band managed to fit some proggy parts into their tracks. I have no explanation for why that first bit is mimicking like a reggae beat.
Yeah, so it is a slightly more interesting beat. I will give it that. But like the writing just isn't there. There just isn't like I don't know. I can't really quite explain it. These guys were just such great writers at one point, and I just feel like there's a real lack of like trying to like build upon more than just like these simple chords.
Right.
And I kind of, my other note here was it sort of brings out the worst aspects of both prog / art rock and pop. Where
Yeah,
just,
it's
like,
all the
really...
stuff that people don't like about those genres.
Exactly, and it's like there's it's long form, but like there's no journey. There's no like reflective section. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's very unfocused.
I mean,
again.
there's no journey. There's not even a destination or anything like that.
Right.
I've been very critical of this album so far, but what I will cop to liking is that very spacey bridge after the second chorus where Banks' synths and Rutherford's guitars are just kind of very smoothly washing in and out of each other.
Yeah.
Though I'm pretty sure I've heard like a lot of those synths that Banks have been using back in like the 1980s.
Yeah.
Especially like that kind of sort of thing.
Yeah, again, the keyboards are very outdated.
And once again, another fucking fade out in the
Another
middle of the
fucking fade out.
in the
Every
middle of the
single
vocal
song.
buildup. Why? What is the purpose of this?
It's just like they didn't know how to end it.
Yeah.
Again.
That's probably exactly what it was.
Yeah, it's like the only way you can end something so meandering. It's like they knew how meandering it was, and they're just like, let's just...
slowly edging towards the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's some interesting ideas on this track, but the way it was thrown together is kind of haphazard, so it only, once again, just manages to be okay.
Yeah.
I will throw a quick shout out to Nirzid Kyahu, who does the lion's share of drum works on this album. And for all I have to complain about Wilson, Rutherford, and Banks, I don't really have many problems with Zid Kyahu, who's just pretty much doing his job and doing it well.
He sure is, yeah. Really don't like the production on the drums at all, but that's not his fault.
Yeah. He's fucking, pulling it off as best he can, so kudos to fucking Nirzid Kyahu.
He's filmed the shoes of Phil Collins, who's like not only a great technical drummer, but also has like a very unique way of executing his drum parts.
I don't like him. He's got too many syllables.
Who, Phil Collins?
No, Nirzid Kyahu.
See, I
too many syllables for me.
I just call him N.
I feel tired.
I thought he like had a problem with Phil. It'd be really funny if like every time someone brought up Phil Collins, he's like the new girlfriend who's like super jealous of the ex. Don't talk about Phil.
What about that time I made you plain toast?
Did Phil ever do that?
No, he always took you out for pancakes. That's too many flavors. I want to move on to track number 5, the actual track number 5, and not just be me not paying attention to where we are.
Sure.
Track number 5, titled Not About Us.
Show me what you think of it. It's not about us anymore. It's all about the reasons that we think we're fighting for.
Ray Wilson.
So this is the first track with a writing credit from Ray Wilson, and I am not surprised at all.
It's also the third single from Calling All Stations. It managed to reach number 66 on the UK charts and number 81 on the German charts. And it's also notable for being their first song from Duke to feature an acoustic guitar. So there's that.
From Calling All Stations.
Right.
You said Duke.
Yeah, it's their first one since Duke to have an acoustic guitar.
Duke, right. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's an acoustic ballad that's trying to be like this big romantic gesture, but it doesn't really reach a very high height and kind of comes off more like one of those like way too earnest guys at a party with an acoustic guitar.
Very much so, and I mean
it doesn't help that Ray Wilson has the exact same voice for that annoying archetype.
Yeah, totally.
Come on, guys, I want to play Wonderwall.
Yeah, seriously. The chords just like there's no hooks. They're just like it's just playing a bunch of chords that don't really go anywhere, and like they just sort of happen, and there's no real there's like no movement or agenda to any of these songs. It's a total slog.
And once again, another fucking mid-vocal fade out.
Yeah, again.
What the fuck?
My other note was sounds like something I'd hear at Victory Supermarket circa 1999-2000. So yeah, again with the bagging groceries, just awful late 90s MOR garbage.
Right. It's like something 90s Sting might have written, except not as good.
Oh,
or
man.
like one of Seal's B-sides.
So, this song reminded me a bit of another prog rock band that everybody loves called Dream Theater.
Really? Would you care to explain that comparison?
So I mean they are another. So they released an album in the same year, 1997, called "Falling into Infinity." That was a bit more of them trying to reach out to a pop audience, but like again, they're a prog rock band. They didn't quite understand how to do it. There's still a lot of like 11 7-minute songs on there,
right?
But like the one song that was sort of had a some inkling of pop sensibility to it was a like 4-minute track called "You Not Me,"
right?
Which sounded a lot like this song, where it was just like these are. And here's what I don't understand: like Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks, they can write good pop music,
right? They've done it plenty of times before.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Rutherford had Mike and the Mechanics, which was a legit pop group.
Yeah, that was straight ahead pop with no kind of like art or prog attached to it.
Yeah, and it's more like they're the type of pop musicians that just have a really good understanding of all types of music to the point where they can sort of filter it out and make it like really appealing.
I mean, not only that, but they had a way to take that kind of sound and make it uniquely theirs.
Exactly.
Like we're so many tracks in, and can you think of one track that we've listened to so far that you'd be able to, if you didn't already know these were all Genesis tracks, would you be able to pin any of these as Genesis songs?
No, not really. I mean, there were like very slight elements where I could kind of hear Tony Banks's style of his writing, but it was just so middle of the road. So like just so much more diluted.
You can kind of hear some bits of, because like Mike Rutherford had a very distinct way of playing like rhythm guitar, but
he did, yeah.
On so many of these songs, the guitar is just like completely washed out into the background a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And there's definitely some like Mike and the Mechanics style rhythm guitar happening. Not so much on this song, but like definitely some other tracks on this record.
Yeah.
So this was a Ray Wilson jam, and it's like immediately obvious by the fact that it's so incredibly boring.
They just had a song, and then Ray Wilson went to them just like, "I got some notes, guys."
Got some notes.
First of all, too much happening. Maybe do a little less. Second note, I made toast for all of you. You guys didn't have any. I mean, I'm not going to hold you against it, but I am a little bit put off. Third note, did I already say too much happening? That's kind of important.
Listen, Ray, I really appreciate your notes. Mike and I here feel that you're really great. I don't know why I'm Australian. My name's Tony Banks. So we did try your
Tony
toast.
and I we really appreciate the work you're doing. I'm Mike Rutherford here. Chicago accent.
They're just from Canada.
And I'm Paul McCartney, and I'm here too.
There he is.
And scene.
Why don't we move on to the next track?
Right, track number 6, titled "If That's What You Need."
If that's what you need, I'll be the river, I'll be the mountain, always beside you. If that's what you need.
Such passion from Ray Wilson.
Strangely, another song that kind of reminds me a bit too much of Follow You, Follow Me and vibe and mood and stuff. And it's actually a little bit like a Mike and the Mechanics song, like we were just talking about. Either way, the band has chosen to follow up some cheesy balladry with very, very cheesy balladry.
Yeah, just more of that synth string, more fucking reverb, just more of the same shit.
By this point, I feel like I'm starting to get a better understanding of what all those reviews meant when they say that the album lacks direction. Which isn't that it doesn't know what it's doing. I think the problem is it's trying to do too many things at once. It's trying to make some marketable mainstream pop like Collins-era Genesis, but it's also trying to be artsy and literate like Gabriel-era Genesis. And it's trying to follow, the trends of the day, which was post-grunge music. It's just trying to do everything all at once, but that just makes the final product just aimlessly trudging and devoid of personality at best. At best.
Yeah, it meanders like again, just there's no discernible verses or choruses. I can't really latch on to any hooks. I feel like Ray Wilson is just sort of singing the same vocal style lines over and over on this record, where he's just sort of kind of staying in that one range and not really doing it like Phil Collins would kind of do, as a drummer. I feel like maybe he would do some more interesting things rhythmically with his vocals. This guy's just sort of going along at his own pace.
Right.
And it really takes the energy out of it.
Here's where I'm probably going to lose you. All that stuff being said, after all the times I listened to this album, I feel a little silly saying that this was the one that got stuck in my head for how ridiculously sincere it was trying to be. It's like an over-the-top, without realizing it, adult pop song. Once again, like something Sting or Seal would have written during the early 90s. And this might be the most fucking, Stockholm Syndrome-y sort of thing for me to say, but I like it. I kind of like it.
It's okay to like a song, Lee. It's fine. I don't feel that way about this song. I feel this way about a future song. So the sentiment's there, just not on this particular track.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I will cop that, it's got some stupid fucking lyrics on here. Talking makes us human, that's what I was told, is a really fucking stupid lyric.
What?
But I don't know what, I can't explain it. I just like it. It's it's like when you have a stupid puppy or something like that. It's just so fucking endearing for how stupid it is.
Ray Wilson is not a stupid puppy. He's just he's an old neglected basset hound.
I have here in my notes, just a bullet point that says creepy uncle karaoke. This is the kind of song that your one creepy uncle would sing to your girlfriend or boyfriend and not break eye contact with them the entire fucking time.
Yeah, that reminds me actually of, I have seen a creepy uncle sing Mike and the Mechanics song at karaoke. My God, which one is it? The one about the dad? My God, The Living Years. There we go. He's like, I want to dedicate this one to my dad, and he sang it, and I'm sure it was great. It's about a dead father, but maybe his was dead. Maybe he just ate one of my sandwiches.
This song goes out to my nephew, Track. He's over there on the table there with his new girlfriend, Meredith. This song's for you, too. If that's what you need, I'll be about it. What does that say right there? I can't. The writing's too small.
Oh my god, my nephew's so handsome.
I love you, Trek. I love you, Meredith. I love you too.
Come be part of the family. Come join the big boys with us after the show.
Come visit us in Port. I got a new boat.
I live in it now, but I got it. They cannot take me off my land, live free or die.
It's the one thing that Eunice didn't get in the custody battle.
Fucking Eunice, man. Yeah, she had a ruthless lawyer.
Yeah.
Ruthless
That
divorce lawyer.
Drunk uncle's having a rough go at it. But
I mean,
he's working it out.
Yeah, I mean he's down there at the club every single Thursday for Denise's karaoke night. And he usually sings that very same Mike and the Mechanic song. But every so often he might bust out this Genesis track.
Every so often he busts out If That's What You Need.
Yeah, I'm very surprised they have it on the list.
Yeah, it wasn't a single.
Yeah, it just happens to be there by popular request. He actually wrote the MIDI track and contributed it to Denise, who runs karaoke down at I don't know what the fuck it's called, the Fife and Barrel.
Applebee's
karaoke.
Yeah, shout out to Denise. Come on the podcast, Denise.
Yeah, please review Mike and the Mechanics with him.
We know you weren't even born yet by the time Love Beach came out, but fucking do it.
Yeah.
So, track number 7, titled "The Dividing Line."
You hear a voice inside you, not the words that you wanted to hear, not the things that you wanted to see.
So, first thought, that sequence bass synth sounds really cool. Reminds me of this one industrial song I love, Headhunter by Front 242, and holy crap, Nearzid Kyahu really busting out the prog beats right there and like really bringing the energy up. So I guess they finally decided to do their fucking homework a little bit. Even Ray Wilson feels like he's kind of pulling out some stops this time around, putting some real fucking energy into it. I mean, granted, he still sounds like second-tier Gavin Rossdale, but the effort he's putting forth is a lot more palpable than any other track so far.
Yeah, I wasn't wild about this track.
No?
I felt like this felt like a bathroom break song to me. Like, this was one of the lengthier tracks, right? It was over 7 minutes.
Yeah,
so this felt like,
it was up there.
I didn't notice if this was on their set list for the tour for this album. But I feel like this would be a track that like I would totally just go take a piss during it, and it would just like go on for way too long.
No, you're not digging it.
I'm not a big fan of this one. I did like the drum parts. I did think that it was like a little more exciting.
I liked some of the keyboard and guitar dueling that kind of happened during the bridge, but
I wasn't big into the keyboard stuff.
No?
Honestly, no. I felt like some of the melodies he could have tweaked them a little better. They felt a little amateurish to me. Like maybe the sounds were there, but I just wasn't nuts about the melody. I don't know.
I mean, there might have been like a better take, and he just picked the wrong take to go with.
Possibly, but I don't know. I'm not going to take that away from you.
There's a chance that like after all the dumping on this album that we've done, I'm trying to find one positive thing that I can say about it.
I think I was just being a negative Nelly.
Fair enough.
I mean, now that you've played it again, it did sound a little better to me this time around than when I wrote these angry notes.
I mean, this one is like one of the few tracks that reviewers, singled out as a good track. And I wouldn't say it's my favorite on the album, but it definitely feels like, some actual effort was put into it a lot more than, some of the other stuff.
My other note was did not realize the song ended, but I assume there was another fade out.
No, that's the surprising bit. It's one of the few tracks on here that doesn't end on a fucking mid-song fade out.
Okay,
it has a proper ending.
It does. Damn, I missed that.
Maybe that's why everyone liked it so much. It didn't end on one of those fucking fade outs.
I don't believe you. I'm pulling it up right now. This is a jukebox first. We're pulling up the
my points are being contested.
Yep.
For the first time ever.
All right.
Let's wait for it. See?
Well, I'll be damned.
It
When
ends.
I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yep. At least you cop to it.
All right. I have something to apologize for next week. I'm not going to apologize for it now.
No, why would you?
Why would I? I mean, maybe that was... All right. I totally fucking slept on that. Holy shit. That was the best ending on the album.
I mean, this is an album that it's very easy to sleep on everything.
We're really looking for
Like,
things to
literally.
like about this for
Yeah,
good points.
It's really hard, guys. It's hard to be nice to this album.
It sure is.
And it's weird because looking up some of the stuff, like a lot of the reviews for this album were coming from like amateur sources, from like things like iloveprogrock.com or something like that, or like iloveprogrock.blogspot.com or something like that. It's like, this is an underrated album. Everything on here is a gem. What fucking album were you listening to that you think that? Dave from accounting?
They're being way too forgiving of a band that they just are like too afraid to be to like speak ill about.
Or maybe they just both love prog rock and Genesis so much that they cannot bring themselves to just be critical for this one instance.
So I mean, a lot of that, I and this is true for a lot of albums. I feel like maybe it came out around a time where they actually purchased it and like had time to digest it and let it grow on them a bit.
Anyway, let's move. What? Whoa! Oh my god! Oh my god! It's fucking Smirsh Magoo shit. Softshoe Magoo came back. Oh my god! Guys, this is unprecedented. Softshoe Magoo just came back into the studio and he's...
Hey!
That's what you got?
Hey! No! You don't get to do that. What are you doing?
Hey! What? Wait, no, now's not the time, Softshoe Magoo. You're just making a mess of everything.
Hey, get away from those sandwiches. All right, I just have to
Okay,
chase them out of
now
here.
we're just saying that as a health hazard. We were pissed off before, but you don't want to eat those sandwiches.
I had to, I just had to chase this dude out of here. Sorry.
Oh, boy.
That wasn't me just standing in the back of the room playing the cigar box
Yeah.
guitar. There was another human being.
Perish the thought. On that note, let's move on to track number 8, titled Uncertain Weather. Kind of a chill, down-tempo track with very trace amounts of In the Air Tonight for some reason to give you a little bit of mood whiplash after Dividing Line wakes your ass up.
Yeah, this felt like a Mike and the Mechanics rejected track to me.
It feels like they were trying to have like they were trying to have like a song that you could just kind of like wave a lighter to, and then they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't so much methane leaking throughout this song to make me want to fall asleep. Farts.
Yeah. And once again, there's a very distinctly 80s sounding keyboard that I've definitely heard before. Like, for all the innumerable Tony Banks set pieces that there are on this album, it feels... Would you say that this album feels a lot more like a Tony Banks solo album than a Genesis album at times?
A little bit. It's tough to say because, like, Mike isn't really offering a lot more than just the sort of textural guitar stuff that he does.
And behind-the-scenes stuff, because he, like, co-wrote a lot of the songs.
Yeah, and that sort of became his role after a while, where he's not, like... He's a decent enough guitar player, and in fact, he did a lot of guitar work even when Steve Hackett was still in the band.
Like Genesis at their commercial peak, though, you would not call them like a very guitar-centric kind of band.
No, and they had like interesting ways of sort of working around that, even as like just a 3-piece. So I mean, there's a lot of maybe Tony Banks playing the bass part on like his left hand or whatever, and doing the melody, the chords on top
You mean
of
on
it.
the keyboard?
On the keyboard,
He
yes.
wasn't playing his left hand.
No, not.
Have we hit upon a scoop? Does Tony Banks have a keyboard installed in his hand?
Oh, shit, we're not getting into this now.
What you were holding on to that information this whole time. This is a big scoop.
Yeah, so he has electronics inside, or actually they're little tiny tapes. It's actually a mellotron inside of his hand. They're little tiny tapes.
Patrick, be real. Is Tony Banks a robot?
Not confirmed.
If he's a robot, you have to tell me.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that.
Oh my fucking god!
He totally is.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
it's a fucking scoop. But anyway, like what I was saying,
sheeple.
I genuinely wonder sometimes if Banks has ever changed his equipment since the 1980s. Like,
I wonder that too, because he's like, I just, and like even beyond that, I'm hearing like the same patches over and over. That same string patch is just being all over this album.
Yeah, and like in the next track, you hear a synth that sounds exactly the same as one that popped up on Alien Afternoon as well.
Yeah, it's just like, it feels like this could have been a little more thought out. I don't really know what the time period of the writing and recording of this was. If like, you know, they just were in a rush to get something out. But I mean, there couldn't have been, because We Can't Dance came out like 6 years earlier or something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
Kind of sweeping, kind of spacey, kind of ethereal, but overall kind of forgettable too. I wouldn't call it a bad song necessarily, but it's just fundamentally unremarkable. Not much to say for me about it.
Yeah, same. I found it to be just more of the same shit, mundane.
Yeah. So I've been pretty negative about this album up to this point, but all that is going to be eclipsed by my thoughts on this next song. Here's track number 9, titled Small Talk.
Don't talk back to me. Don't talk back to me. Don't talk back to me. Don't talk.
This song blows.
Thank you. Thank you. This song, my first line of notes here is, well, this song is dumb.
This song, another one with a writing credit from Ray Wilson, is a song that sounds like it was in the running to be a single at some point. Like a song that was meant to capture Collins-era pop from songs like I Can't Dance or Tonight, 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 but wisely decided against it because it sounds obnoxious and annoying.
Yeah, and again, his vocals are just so flat and lacking in any sort of excitement or dynamics.
Don't talk back to me.
And
Oof, that wore me out. I gotta take a break.
I need some toast, some bland toast. And like the musical ideas just come across as corny.
Yeah.
Again, the outdated synths and the like flat production again just does not help the case whatsoever. It's oppressively unremarkable at best, and really fucking corny and outdated, and did not has no business existing in 1997.
And like I said, speaking of outdated, there are those fucking synths I was talking about. That is like the exact same fucking preset as on Alien Afternoon.
Yeah, seriously. Like, again, just bringing nothing new to the fold.
This song is like the nadir of a classic era rock band past their prime, but still trying to convince everybody they can still rock to the best of their abilities. Like, here are a few of the questions that ran through my head when listening to this song. Why is there a section with pizzicato string synths in a crowd full of people talking disjointedly? Why is Ray Wilson making no effort whatsoever to sound unique compared to any other fucking post-grunge act of the time? Why is there yet another fucking mid-vocal fade-out?
Again, yes. And I'm glad you brought up the pizzicato strings, because that
right.
was, I remember that.
What was
too.
the point of that section?
I don't know.
I mean, I get that songs come and go in sections and like different and bridges and stuff like that. This one was just glued on with fucking Elmer's glue. Then in my notes, I just have this track blows written like 9 times in a row.
I hated this track.
Fucking
it was so corny.
So bad. All right, then that's all I got to say about that one. Track number 10. This one's titled "There Must Be Some Other Way."
There must be some other way to get where we have to go.
Another one that Ray Wilson had a writing credit on. There's some kind of interesting sounding progressive hits in it throughout, and Tony Banks is doing the keyboard solo still sounds technically good, but on the whole, there's really not a whole lot to separate it from the rest of the other floaty synth tracks.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think the choruses of this song are like, he doesn't really quite reach the emotional impact that Collins or Gabriel could achieve in their own unique way. But I feel like he's actually like trying to make an effort to be exciting and to belt and to sort of Phil Collins has this sort of great torch song sort of voice, where,
over the top sort of reveling in flamboyance and that sort of stuff.
Exactly, flamboyance and just sort of really selling you this idea that they have. And I feel like there's something here that there's something slightly more interesting with the cadence and how he's like executing the choruses, which
I mean, I get the feeling that he's certainly trying on this song, but not quite reaching it.
Right. And again, like the more of that synth, that Tony Banks synth string sound that we've been hearing already, I'm kind of realizing at this point how much I really miss his piano work, because I'm like, there's none on this album. There's none of that really pretty, ornate stuff that I really love. Stuff that you would hear on on the early Gabriel shit. And then
did Tony Banks ever have a solo career outside of Genesis?
Nothing really noteworthy. I'm not.
I mean, I know Peter Gabriel had a solo career, like Steve Hackett had a solo career, Phil Collins had a solo career, Mike Rutherford had Mike and the Mechanics. Did Tony Banks ever have anything like that?
You know what? I don't really know enough about him. I don't think he really did a heck of a lot outside of Genesis, other than maybe probably random.
It really sounds like maybe he might have had the most to gain and lose from Genesis still being around a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so, and I think especially with him being him and Rutherford being the only
holdouts,
the only ones that were there for every single record. Yeah, maybe he has a little bit more invested in the Genesis brand than say Phil Collins, who actually Phil Collins didn't show up until Genesis's third album,
right?
Nursery Crime,
right?
Which I didn't know for a while. I thought that maybe he was at least on Trespass, but he was not.
Right.
Some other guy. The drummer who they had for the first two albums actually left because he had low self-esteem. That's literally why he quit the band. He was like, "Guys, I don't think I'm good enough to play for you." All right. Sorry. All right, I'm going to go back to my job.
I'm going to sell shoes again.
Nothing, just playing my drums here. Nothing remarkable.
And then decades later, guys, we got to get that Ray Wilson fella. He's so remarkable.
Yeah, seriously. Oof.
Ray Wilson. So I feel like this album was already running out of steam by Uncertain Weather, and now it's just kind of running on fumes. I'm running out of stuff to talk about, and this is just yet another track that is just way fucking longer than it should have been, and it's just so boring and meandering and uninspiring.
Yeah, I felt like this was the one that was really trying to capture the tonight feel, because that song was pretty lengthy. That was like an 8.5 minute song.
Right.
Yeah, I felt like this was really the one that was this track to me felt the most unmistakably Genesis to me. I feel like maybe if I heard this outside, out of context, never hearing this album before, there's a chance I might be able to.
You might question, is this a Genesis?
Yeah, I guess, knowing that there is an album out there that doesn't have Phil Collins or Peter Gabriel on it.
Right.
But not having any idea. I could kind of hear Tony Banks's stank a little bit more on this song.
Tony stanks.
Tony Banks stanks.
Guys, don't call me that anymore. I told you I don't like it.
I took a shower now. It's different. It's not like before where I used to not take showers.
Come on, guys. Stop calling me Tony Stanks. And give me back my lunch money. I need it to buy chicken nuggets.
Yeah, okay.
They got dinosaur nugs this time around.
Yeah, okay, Stinky Tony.
Guys, you're mean.
Well, you smell.
Track number 11. We're finally at the end. This one titled One Man's Fool. Yeah, pretty much the same thoughts as There Must Be Some Other Way from me, down to the letter. It's kind of interesting percussive accents, Tony Banks still being as good of a synth player as he's been on the rest of the album. It's just a very competent, if boring, soft rock song. Like, it really just feels more and more, apart from Nirzid Kyahu, that, like, Tony Banks is the only one on here, pulling any kind of weight his way.
Yeah, so this was like 9 minutes of pretty much the same shit over and over, and it seems pointless to even point out at this point that this song meanders and doesn't really take me anywhere. It doesn't really offer anything new that I haven't already heard. It fucking sounds like the first track, honestly.
Yeah.
If I heard Calling All Stations and then just like skipped ahead to this track, I'd be like, does every fucking song sound like this?
But yeah.
The only like real sense of movement that we get out of this song is like towards the end where the drums go in double time. Like that's the only sort of, moment where we're not like just slogging along at this post-grunge pace.
Yeah, once again, I'm going to say, like, apart from, the occasional percussive sort of change-ups, it's tone, and this really just sort of ties into my point earlier about it being basically a Tony Banks solo album. Because, like, Tony Banks very frequently is the only one on this album that gets to do anything interesting, like, most of the time. And notably, he's one of the only ones that wanted to keep going after Calling All Stations failed.
Ray Wilson did.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the only one of the original members.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
The album only managed to sell 90,000 copies in the U.S., which led Genesis to scrap a planned States tour, and though the band was under contract to do 2 albums, any plans for a second one was squashed due to Mike Rutherford, who basically decided he was done with it. Banks and Wilson were all in to do another one, but as Rutherford put it in an interview with Rolling Stone, what happened was that suddenly the mood changed, and I sort of felt that going forward to create a new Genesis required too much work. I just didn't have it in me, and I had the mechanics. I knew that Tony and Ray wanted to carry on, but I knew I couldn't do it.
So he's got those mechanics.
Yeah.
All.
Of course fucking Ray Wilson wanted to continue on. What's his other option? Fucking, I guess he could go back to Stiltskin.
Yeah, so he went on and did a tour playing Genesis songs, didn't he?
Oh, so that's what he fucking did.
Okay, no.
After having a piece of Genesis, he went on to be a fucking Genesis tribute act.
Exactly, and
that's pretty sad.
Yeah,
even sadder than like the idea that Tony Banks, really didn't want to let it go.
Yeah, I feel like this was his lunch ticket for sure for Ray Wilson.
Stiltskin only really had one big hit.
I don't even know what their song was.
Where was it? They had a song titled. Their number one UK hit was called "Inside," which I did not bother to look up and listen to.
Wow, he wrote a song about a side that was in. Yeah, Ray Wilson was keen to continue and has continued to include Genesis songs.
This is the Wikipedia article Pat has up.
Yeah, Ray Wilson was keen to continue and has continued to include Genesis songs from all eras on his solo tour, including touring a World of Genesis set. So this dude is just like, he fucking latched on to play their very worst album, and then just like took a few of his tracks that he wrote, and then like he's out there doing fucking Land of Confusion and like Turn It On Again and like all these other fucking amazing songs that like other much more superior musicians have like gone through the emotional labor of writing.
He's the opening act for Denise's karaoke night at the Applebee's.
Might as well be. Like, Jesus, that's what it is. It's just fucking karaoke. He kind of sounds like Peter Gabriel, but like, not really.
This is like that one fucking Velvet Underground album where, like, that one guy was brought on for one album, and then everyone in Velvet Underground quit, but then he continued on as Velvet Underground. You know, fucking Doug or whatever his name was.
Man, my
Doug
brain was
Underground.
fucking broken for a second, and I thought we were talking about Velvet Revolver.
I mean, Ray Wilson would fit in just fine if they ever wanted to bring that back.
Yeah, for sure. Like, they want to bring back Duff McKagan and the boys. So, yeah, another thing here is they had to transpose the key to fit Ray Wilson's vocal range.
Oh, boy.
Which, like, man,
that should be your first warning sign.
I hate that shit. I hate when they do that. And it's just like,
I mean,
I'm just
like,
picturing like all these great Genesis songs.
It's one thing if you're like, you know, Elton John or someone like that, and like you wrote the fucking songs, but now your voice has been like too destroyed over the years.
Yeah.
Like you gotta transpose it downward. But
when you're older, your voice gets deeper.
If you're bringing in
out.
a fucking ringer to do the thing, then you shouldn't have to just like, you know, make all those changes. Like what was like fucking Arnel Pineda it up, you know? The fucking guy they got to replace Steve Perry in Journey.
For sure. And I'm just picturing all these.
He could pull it off.
He could. That's who they should have got to fucking fill in for Phil Collins.
Sure, why not?
I'm just picturing all these like great Genesis tracks like Carpet Crawlers and shit just like transposed.
Supper's Ready.
Like, post-grunge. Yeah, I don't think they did Supper's Ready, but there is a set list here. Let's see what they got.
Oh, yeah?
They did do Carpet Crawlers, of course.
Yeah, that was one of the few Gabriel tracks they did after like Collins took the helm.
They did fucking Firth of Fifth. What the fuck? Like, I'm trying to picture this lineup of Genesis trying to pull off that song. There's like Peter Gabriel does a flute part in that. He does like a honest to goodness flute track, and I'm trying to picture like Ray Wilson playing the flute. Like, I don't know what else.
He can just do it a cappella.
They don't have the Slipperman, so like he didn't ever have to wear like the Slipperman outfit or Ray Wilson wearing like a fucking flower.
Just imagine Ray Wilson just like fumbling to put on the fucking Watcher of the Skies cape.
Yeah, seriously. The Slipperman outfit, which was it was
a bunch of lumps, basically.
It was a bunch of lumps. It was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be like a herpes infected dick.
I've seen pictures of it. It basically looks like the worst fucking mascot costume you can imagine.
Yeah, I guess like that was. It was like nearly
Ladies and
impossible
gentlemen,
to perform
here's
in that
your
outfit.
Baltimore Slipperman.
Y'all ready for this? Oh my God, they do. Okay, so they do. They do an excerpt from Supper's Ready, Lover's Leap.
They do an acoustic medley at some point too, right?
They do, and includes that section from Supper's Ready. I forget what it's called. Lover's Leap. I can't remember exactly what section that was, but and it goes right into Not About Us. Like, talk about going from like one of your like possibly one of like your greatest compositions as an artist, and then going to this fucking song that Ray Wilson wrote. Fuck, man.
Oh boy,
that's no way to end a career.
Yeah, that and like, you know, fucking One Man's Fool is certainly not a good way to cap this album off. Unimpressive, but you know, appropriate because once again, that fucking mid vocal fade out.
Yep.
Once again, leering its head.
Yep.
And that pretty much does it for Calling All Stations. So, what do you say we get to our final thoughts?
Yeah,
Patrick. I have a feeling I know the answer, but do you consider this a worst of all time album?
You know what? It sucks. It fucking sucks, and I will never listen to this again. I don't think it's the worst album of all time. It's most certainly the worst Genesis album. It's fucking awful. I will never listen to it again. It was a waste of time. But, you know, it's just it's so middle of the road. It just doesn't offend enough that I can't really call this the worst album of all time, which is sort of ironic because like in that in that same capacity, the album wasn't interesting to me in any way. It's like if it was a little bit worse, it would have been more interesting to me, and then I would have given it that rating. Instead of being the worst. I don't know how this shit works. I don't know. How about you, Lee?
I'm marking this down as a worst of all time material.
I'll respect that.
Both as an album, but primarily more than just the quality of it. I'm marking it because of the sheer act of hubris it is. I mean, consider, like, Peter Gabriel and Steve Hackett left the band in the 70s. Banks, Rutherford, and Phil Collins are in the unfortunate and difficult position of continuing on without two of the things that defined Genesis best. But against all odds, and thanks to incredibly strategic retooling, they pulled it out and enjoyed commercial fortunes even greater than before.
Yeah.
Now in the mid-90s, this happens again, only this time they don't have, someone like Phil Collins to fall back into. They thought they could pull this out again with some fucking no-name rando from a one-hit wonder band. They thought that would be enough. They thought that the music they made, which I can't fathom pleasing either class of Genesis fan, either the progressive rock fans or the 80s pop fans, they thought that was good enough. Well, you know what, guys? It's not fucking good enough. This album sucks.
Yeah, I will definitely attest to the hubris on this record, where like there's like really lame production choices happening all over the album, and just like a real lack of anything interesting or noteworthy, or like just like not trying. I don't know, like Ray Wilson, man, he's just so bland.
Ray Wilson.
And they weren't enough. He wasn't enough to really. It wasn't a good match for these guys at all.
Absolutely not.
No. Yeah. I will respect that. I will agree that it fucking sucked.
It was not good in the slightest.
Softshoe Magoo, you missed out. You missed out on a real shit album. Yeah.
So we envy you. You had the foresight to leave when the time was good.
Yeah, he was such a huge Genesis fan too. It's really random. This like blues guitarist from the Delta South.
I don't know why he decided then was the time to leave, or for that matter, why he was playing a cigar box ukulele instead of blues guitar.
Again, I think it kind of ties back to the whole band dying thing. I don't know. I'm not 100%.
Yeah,
clear on
that would screw you up. He probably wasn't thinking right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an overreaction. To be honest,
was that? Oh, hang on. Is he just sort? No, Softshoe Magoo, don't eat that! Don't eat the ham!
I play my song when I eat.
Don't eat the ham! I told you that we're warning you, don't eat the ham, it's bad, it's tainted! No, he's stuffing his mouth full of ham right now. Why is he doing that?
I play my ham song.
Oh my god, he's turning blue. He's turning blue. He's fell on the floor. He's starting to convulse, but he's still keeping the beat on the ukulele. So wow. So fair play to that. Wow. I mean, we should probably be calling the hospital or something, but this is just so.
I'm really concerned at this point. Holy shit.
This is very entertaining. Wow. I didn't know the human body could turn that many colors.
I just want to see you come back now.
No, we didn't say you could get on mic. Get the fuck out of here, Softshoe Magoo.
I don't like this album. It's I was always more of a Stiltskin fan.
Did he just say he was a Stiltskin fan?
I think so. Do you want to touch upon that a bit? Softshoe? Hey.
He's taking a nap.
Hey. Hey, are you okay?
He's fine.
I think he's fine. Anyway, we're gonna collect his thoughts later on.
Right.
So he's a huge Stiltskin fan. That's kind of why I brought him on the show to begin with, because I thought he would have some interesting commentary on, like, because I certainly didn't listen to anything.
Oh yeah, me neither.
Wrote.
Why would I?
Why would I? Wasn't impressed with any of the fucking songs that he wrote here.
Oh boy.
I was not looking to dig into any more of his catalog.
So anyway, I have a feeling we're not going to get that much out of this, but Patrick, for what it's worth, what would you say is your favorite or the least bad track on the album?
My vote's going to be for, There Must Be Some Other Way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, only because I felt like that was maybe the most energized that I heard Ray Wilson on this album. Like, he's really middling away on most of this record, but
Yeah,
I felt
no
like this
kidding.
was sort of the moment that sounded like he was trying to do something like along the lines of Phil Collins, and it actually sort of worked. And I think there was some kind of cool Abacab-esque moments in the bridge of the song. I'm really reaching. I couldn't find very much.
Right.
What about you?
My, favorite least bad track for what it's worth, if that's what you need for the sheer cheese factor of it all. I don't by any means think it's a good song necessarily.
Heavens no.
But like
Perish the thought.
I said, this was the only one that I actually had stuck in my head after I finished listening to it. I have a good feeling that you and I are going to be in the same page for the worst track. So I'll just count down and we'll just say it at the same time. 3, 2, 1. Small talk.
Yeah, we did it.
Fuck that song.
Ooh, that song was rough.
So bad.
Yeah.
And that was Calling All Stations.
Sure was.
I hope Tony Banks, Ray Wilson, Mike Rutherford, if you're listening, I hope you're ashamed of yourselves.
I hope so too. I don't know what any of them are up to nowadays. Do you?
What?
What are these guys up to nowadays? I think they're. I think Phil came back to do a nostalgia reunion tour with them at one point.
Yeah, he came back and did a nostalgia tour in the mid-aughts, but then that was around the same time he retired. Not long after that, supposedly he's come back, and I don't know if that means he's working on a new album or if he's.
Oh, that's right. He's on the Not Dead Yet tour, which really fills you with a lot of confidence.
He did a nostalgia tour.
Phil Collins. Yeah. Well, Phil Collins solo is currently doing the Not Dead Yet tour, which that is in progress or maybe is about to happen.
If I had to guess, maybe Mike Rutherford's probably miking it up with Mike and the Mechanics.
I don't know a ton of people who are really looking to see them.
They're probably playing the fucking, I don't know, Hampshire Ballroom or something like that on the fucking boardwalk.
They're playing that uncle who he sent a letter out to him.
Yeah,
come on down, play for my nephew Colin and his sweet
girlfriend Meredith.
Come and play for Meredith Quinceañera.
Quinceañera.
I know I'm white, but that doesn't mean I can't have a quinceañera. What? You're the real bigots.
Yeah, that's right. I picked up some nachos down at the nacho store. They're like corn Dunkaroos.
Hang on, has the drunk uncle been the producer on all those albums this whole time?
I think so. He's got many talents.
Tony Banks, I think, might be doing solo stuff. I think recently he's gone the same route as fucking Rick Wakeman and people, just doing performances of neoclassical music. And fucking Ray Wilson, he's probably, looking for the latest Burger King deal.
Yeah. in between playing other people's songs. All right, well, I have Tony Banks's Wikipedia.
I got this coupon in the mail for 2 for 1 on chicken nugs from Burger King. But they're so spicy, though.
Dunk those in water.
It's gonna hurt my tongue.
I think you're right. Yeah, he did release some albums in the mid-aughts of 2012 even. He did another classical album, 6 Pieces for Orchestra, played with the Praha Philharmonic. Holy shit. And then he did another one, in 2018, a third classical album called 5.
So he's at least keeping busy.
Yeah, so I think that's what he's doing right now. That kind of makes sense. A lot of prog rock keyboardists tend to end up doing that.
Totally. Rick Wakeman, like we mentioned.
Yeah, he did a lot of that too. I don't know. What other keyboardists are there?
Keith Emerson?
Yeah, one of them. Oh, he's dead, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's probably released a couple of neoclassical albums before then.
Yeah.
Before then.
He had a whole solo career, I thought, too. That was of note.
Yeah, totally.
So what's interesting is that I don't think Genesis have any real interest in getting back together.
That's probably for the best, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what Peter Gabriel is even doing nowadays. He actually released a new track a couple years ago that was pretty decent.
He didn't stop releasing albums.
He kind of did though, but he didn't stop releasing music. He was putting stuff out every so often. Like he did the Wall-E soundtrack, the song on there.
Like not long after that, he had like this weird kind of project where he put out an album where he covered a bunch of modern bands, and then tried to have all the modern bands cover him, and they all mostly were agreed to it except for the one fucking holdout, fucking Radiohead.
Of course,
because they're no fun.
I would have.
They make great music, but they're no fun.
Man, I actually think that Tom York was working on a cover of Santa Cinto at one point, which actually would have been really fucking cool. And that's the album that he covered, like Arcade Fire and
Arcade
David
Fire,
Byrne and
Elvis Costello.
Yeah. So yeah,
not a bad album.
It's not terrible. The Arcade Fire cover was actually pretty decent.
Oh yeah, his cover of My Body Is a Cage is like scores above the original.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And they used it. They used it recently, I think, on a show.
Like Westworld or something?
Something like that. One of those shows. And is it like Westworld or The Path or one of those fucking shows? So anyway, there's a tribute act called the Musical Box.
I've heard of them. They're like the most famous Genesis cover band in the world.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be like, I actually really want to go and see them sometime because they're supposed to be like as good as the original lineup. Like, in fact, Peter Gabriel takes his kid like to quite a few Musical Box shows.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
a feather in their cap.
Yeah, and like they not only sound like them, but like the people in the band actually like physically kind of look like them too.
Really?
It's kind of interesting.
Wow.
Like I don't know if they just got a super tall dude to play Mike Rutherford or what. And I don't know. I don't think Ray Wilson is there. They don't have a Ray Wilson lookalike.
When you say they look like the members of the band, you mean the actual band and not the hideous spitting image puppets? Because that would...
Oh my god, that would be frightening.
That would be horrible.
They had like animatronic puppets. They had like animatronic Genesis puppets. That would actually be pretty amazing. I would see that.
Yeah, actually, I might actually go see a Genesis puppet show. Even if they don't actually look like the band and just have like fucking Muppets fucking lip syncing to Genesis songs, just like a Muppet version of Supper's Ready with the fucking geometric headdress and stuff like that. That would be pretty rad.
I don't think I could handle 26 minutes of puppets. All right, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Lee, you got anything to plug?
Me? Nope, not really. I have like a couple of surprise party shows coming up, but I think I don't know if they're going to be like all done by the time this episode comes out. Yeah. I mean, I guess like November we're playing at the Warthen House in Lowell with a couple other great people. With our friends in the Only with our friends in the Only Things, PNDB, and the Knockups. So that's going to be fun.
Oh fuck yeah, I love the Knockups.
Yeah, the Knockups are great.
Kat and I go way back.
And
she was in 4-Port Restraints before that.
Right, yeah, I remember that. And might have a new Sawtooth thing, might have some noise music out at some point, so that's all I got.
Yeah.
You got anything?
I don't know. Obviously check out our sister podcast, Old Men Yell at Cloud.
Totally.
You can find us on Facebook, also on iTunes. That's another podcast that I do with our good pals Christopher Brown and Jim Schultz. We listen to vinyl and we talk about it. It's a pretty cool time. Definitely a lot more enjoyable music than the stuff that Lee and I subject ourselves to.
This album got a vinyl release.
Why?
What a waste of wax.
Seriously, I'm just trying to picture this fucking shitty, like, totally, like, unmistakably digital recording and someone having to be like, cool, I guess I'm gonna mix this to vinyl. Real exciting.
Oh, man.
Really great.
Any big, like, Smell or Bears for Ears stuff coming up?
Not right now. Bears for Ears, we're kind of taking a break. We're gonna work on some new music. Smell... Again, got a couple albums in the works. One I'm hoping to release by like early January.
Very
And
cool.
the other one, maybe later on, like in the summer of 2019. And what else we got going on? I don't know. Follow me on Twitter, cat_SB, for some comedy bronze. I'm starting to make memes now. I don't know.
Softshoe Magoo, you got anything you want to plug?
Softshoe? Hold on.
He's fine.
Hey. Softshoe?
I guess not.
He can't handle the ham. Couldn't hack it.
Oh boy, oh boy. That about does it for this episode of Jukebox Zeroes. Our theme song is Sunny Day by the band Froggy and the Friendship. You can check them out at froggyandthefriendship.bandcamp.com. If you've got an album you want to suggest for us to review or just want to leave us some feedback or a comment, email us at jukeboxzeroespodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/jukeboxzeroespodcast or on Twitter at twitter.com/jukeboxzeroes. You can find us, rate us, review us, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. And our archive main page is jukeboxzeroes.podbean.com. That about does it for this episode of Jukebox Zeroes. I'm Lee.
I'm Patrick.
And remember... Whoa! Oh my god! Softshoe Magoo came back to life! Oh, he does.
It's amazing.
He still doesn't look so good, though. Oh my god, I think he might be a zombie.
No, never mind.
Oh.
He's dead. He's dead.